So we're back again for another episode of Bring Others Along, and today with me I've got the lovely, the absolutely one of my favorite people to be
Oh,
around in terms of her energy, in terms of all the stuff that she's doing. Dija,
thank you.
welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, so there's lots I wanted to get into today,
Mm.
and I think your story, and we spoke about this obviously, offline, off camera, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just about the things that you're doing now, but more importantly, kind of what you represent in the space. I
Sure.
think is quite, remarkable and quite important to shed some light on that. So without further ado, I want to paint a picture, I would say, for the audience as to
Okay.
where it all began. It's funny because I read something you said. I think it was Vaseline was like your. I'm paraphrasing here, but there
Yeah.
was a quote that you put out there saying Vaseline was like your first or yeah, I think the first
Yeah.
introduction to skincare.
Yeah.
So I want to expand on that because this just brings me back to someone who's got a lot of female cousins, sisters,
Yeah.
etc.
Okay.
So
Okay.
where did it all start for you in terms of this beauty kind of space journey?
I guess, I think I was born into beauty.
Wow.
I remember seeing pictures of my mum when I was born. My mum had a C-section and like her hair was perfect. She had it all in pin curls and she had makeup
Wow.
on, her nails were done. And I was just born into a world where you weren't overly done up, but you were groomed. As you were, it was respectable to be groomed, and my mum used to be a model, so she was very into her beauty anyway. And it was just one of the. I was born in Sierra Leone, so West Africa, quite conservative, and it was just one of those countries or upbringings where you were bathed, you were Vaselined up, you were shiny, you just looked like a shiny penny. And well, that was a good thing. Like it was like, you come from a good home sort of thing. If you were dry and ashy, it's like, where are your parents? Who are you trying to embarrass?
Sort your life out.
Yeah, sort your life out. Which is why, to this day, when like if we're leaving the house, I have an 8-year old. I'll be like, oh my god, go and rub cream on your face or something. So it's just like, it's just one of those things. That's how I grew up, and obviously because and I've got my book coming out in a couple of weeks. And one of the
Absolutely.
things that my book touches on is history, and history of skincare and the intersection between blackness and the beauty industry and beauty in general. And one of the things we did look at was, and we thought it would be quite fun to do. And I didn't actually even realize that post on Instagram was going to get so much love because people just started telling me about what they were using as what they remember as childhood skincare,
Yeah.
and so that's why we call that post in my mother's house. So yeah, that's I've always been, into grooming. I remember being sort of age 6, 7, 8. I had my own little salon at home. I'd offer pedicures, back massage. So yeah, it's just I can't separate it from me
Yeah.
because it's just you know
No, and it makes a lot of sense, I suppose, me getting to know you over the period of time. Obviously, I've been, using full transparency, your services.
yeah.
I guess you all can probably see the glow on the cameras. We'll leave that up for interpretation. But I suppose it's more, and I obviously would like to know a bit more on the fact that your mum was a model. And how was that growing up, knowing, I guess, your mum had clearly, a standard in terms of beauty and how probably she carried herself, and you pretty much saying you were born into it. Did that travel with you right the way through to, young
Yeah.
adulthood? How did
Yeah,
that?
I would absolutely say so. Um, Having my nails done, um, having makeup on is something that
Mm,
I do as a matter of course. I think now that I'm a mother, I am a little bit more relaxed about, say, having makeup on first thing in the morning or something like that, um, because I don't want my daughter necessarily to feel that sort of
yeah,
pressure. Um, so, but it is something that is very important to me. I do like to look put together,
yeah,
not overly so,
hmm,
but I do like to look like I made an
yeah,
effort.
yeah,
And I think it makes you feel good as well. it just gives you a bit of a pep in your step, and you know, you can face the world. I don't know. For me, like I say, it's part and parcel of how I want to be perceived in the world and how I come out in the world.
Yeah. I guess you look good, you feel good.
Yeah.
As they say, and I think you're absolutely right. It's just funny to me, you know, as you're talking, I'm thinking, you know, that line where people always say, you know, I didn't choose beauty, beauty kind of choose me.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like your story.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, I didn't always work in beauty. When I went to uni, my family, very academic, very conservative as well. It's funny, I didn't consider it as an option of a career at all. So I went to uni. I knew I wanted to kind of be in business.
Yeah.
And I went to uni, and I actually left when I finished uni. I went to work in the city for a little while, which I completely hated. And I was always the person, like, if you open my desk drawer, you could find nail polish, you could find hair products, you could find anything but paper clips. And like, my top drawer was not about office stationery. It was like my little reserve. And I always had like hair straighteners and all that sort of stuff. And it was a running joke, don't open my drawers. And, you know, I had no passion for it. And the worst part was I was good at my job. I tend to be very good at my job. And I was very good at my job, but I completely didn't like it. And it was long hours. I used to, anytime I had holiday from work, I'd go and do a beauty course. So I'd go and do a qualification in nails, or I'd go and do a qualification in makeup or something. I was always doing something definitely not related to my work at all. To the point where when the recession happened, I remember I left, and I remember it was if you were going to leave a job, it was one of the best ways of leaving. Even I had a long notice period because my boss was just like, you do not belong here, Dija. You just don't belong here. You are fly girl number one. You do not belong here.
You saw the vision.
She saw what was going on. You know, I did her makeup for her wedding. We're good friends. We're still really good friends, me and my ex-boss. I did her makeup for her wedding and everything because she was like, go and do the things you want to do. And that's what I did.
No, that's super important. And I suppose, you know, I've spoken to a few people, and there's always that moment where I guess either someone sees something in you, or you know, you kind of make that switch to say, I'm probably best suited putting my time, energy, effort into this.
I mean, I probably would have been VP by now or MD by now if I'd stayed in banking. However, I would have been miserable. You know, when when I used to go to work, right? The minute I entered the building, I was angry. Like, nobody has said anything to me. And you know, when you get to the point where you're like, it's not even them, it's just, you know, it was you. Security guard looks at me, I'll be like, what are you looking at? Like, I was just angry for being there. And it's like, they're not forcing you to be there. You're not a tree, move if you don't like it. And it's good support. I was like, I've got to leave because I'm just an angry person. And I know some people might disagree, but I'm a very laid back person. So I was just like, I'm just angry. And even my husband, my now husband, would be like, but babe, what's the matter? Why are you so vexed?
Just woke up and chose violence.
Yes, why are you so vexed? Every little thing, you're ready to fight. And I was just really angry. And and it was like, it's almost like you maybe didn't know you had the option to leave. So my boss was very much like, you can leave, and it's not a problem.
No, that's so. I guess part one of the journeys that I had as well. But I did venture into the same kind of career or stuck in the same space. But it's that, you know, I wouldn't say feeling stuck, but like you said, you're like almost. You
don't know you've got the option of leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess it's, you know, credit to you to your boss first of all, but also you for taking that step to go, actually, I know what I probably should be doing or want to be doing. So what was the transition after you left corporate?
Well, it wasn't straightforward, and it wasn't like necessarily the most financially lucrative transition. But beauty tends not to be. Beauty is like, beauty, people work in beauty for the love of it, not necessarily for the money of it. And if you happen to have a business brain at the same time, yes, you will make money out of it.
Okay.
So the transition was very much like I was very aware that I needed to get my full qualifications because there's no way you can stand up and be able to give people advice about their skin and all that sort of stuff if you're not qualified to start with. I mean, I'm constantly getting qualifications anyway, so it's not like you, it's a fast moving industry. So it's not like you get one qualification and you're like, right, that's it, I'm done. You have to constantly stay on top of the game. So the first thing I did was get qualified and get experience. Now, I was one of those people in those days, you know, you worked for free to gain your experience.
Wow.
So you would assist maybe and I got a broad range of experience. I did makeup, I did nails, I did, you know, everything. So in terms of experience, you'd go to fashion shows to assist the head makeup artist. You weren't getting paid. You're only getting paid in experience. You were getting paid in how to hustle, learn the art of the hustle. And that's and you networked. Like I've made friends that now that I have a book coming out, I can be like, I can call up on those friends, and these are long-term friends to support the work I'm doing now. You hustle. I then, when I actually then did get some qualifications, I then went to work in salon, which I, you know, again, I hated. But I now that I have my own salon, my own practice, I can see the benefits of, it's because funny, there's things that happen because I used to hate my salon boss, and there's things that happen now, and I turn around to my husband and go, that's what so-and-so was saying to me at the time. Oh my God. And you know, when it's just like, you kind of like, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I do get those flashbacks now because now I have my own staff, my own team, and, you know, they do things and I'm like, flashback. However, the transition was all about the grind. It wasn't, there was no glow up. In my day, there was no boss lady. You know, we didn't,
Boss
there
lady.
was none of that. Nobody even knew what that was. It's only, that's why when now I look and I see boss ladies and I'm like, where's your experience? You ain't bossing nothing, babe.
Just woke up like
yeah, you just woke up and you're a boss. Okay, if you say so, girl. So that's what I did, and you know, to this day, up until last week, I was still working for free.
Wow.
As my husband would say, at your big age, at my big age, because you have to realize that sometimes the people you're going to be surrounded by, and you're going to spend time with, where you're working for free, is more valuable than any cash money you'll get. And that's the bottom line. But I get concerned for our young boss ladies nowadays when you ask them something and the first thing they say is, what's your budget? And I'm like, you need to think bigger than the cash benefit. You need to think about who you're going to be in the room with, who you're going to be sat next to, because you don't know in X amount of years' time how that's going to pay off for you. But if you're only interested in having a very transactional relationship where money changes hands, then you're not going to develop goodwill towards yourself.
Yeah, no, it's such an important message, and I suppose, you know, it's one of those things where you need to recognize opportunity when there's not a paycheck attached to it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you need to, you know, you are your own personal brand. And the beauty industry is a very small and incestuous industry. I can guarantee you can send me a text message now, and by the time I'm leaving here, a few people will know about that text message. It's just, it's a very small industry, and everything goes around. So if you're a completely transactional person, where you are always like, you will get a reputation for, don't ask her about anything, she's going to ask you for money. Therefore, you will not be invited to certain places. You will not get to experience certain things if all you're ever concerned about is how much money you're going to get. Because people will get to know that. They'll say, oh, no, don't ask Shane for nothing. Yeah. He only wants to get paid. Yeah. And payment comes in so many other ways. In my opinion, as what's paid me in life, payment comes in so many other ways. And you've got to be of service. Beauty industry is a service industry. You've got to be of service. And that service, unfortunately, isn't always going to be a financial transaction.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and I don't want it to be missed in terms of, you know, that journey that you had to go through, almost paying your dues, I guess.
Yeah.
In a
Kiss
way.
the ring, as we say. Kiss the ring. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so I guess when you were, you know, kind of making that transition, or like you said, you know, you were putting in the hours, you know, working for free, you know, assistance and all that kind of thing. What was it during that period that I guess continued to drive you, continued to make you aware that this is actually, you know, the right path? I'm, you know, and not be like, this working for free ain't working out for me, really.
I guess it was faith. And also, yes, I did have some cash in the bank because obviously I'd worked in the city. I had some cash in the bank. I worked multiple jobs. So aside from working for free, I did admin. So in my, say, 9 to 5, I did admin. I had to pay the bills somehow. So I freelanced in terms of like I had my own little gig where I'd go to different people's houses and do their nails and stuff like that. I had my own little couch bed that I used to sort of go around to people's houses and do facials. I'd be logging that thing around. Honestly, like my shoulders have died several times. I hustled like number one hustler. I hustled. I got paid. And you know what? I was still flying. I still went on holiday. I still went on holiday. You would never know by looking at me. You know, like in my how I was brought up, trouble don't show on your face. Like your troubles do not have to show on your face. It's as simple as that. Which is why sometimes I'll be saying to my friend, God, I'm broke, you know. And she's like, but you don't look it though. That's all right. She's like, you're still carrying designer bag. You still have Zara clothes on. You're still doing sunglasses and Gucci and that. I'm like, but I'm broke. And she's like, ain't nobody got to know. Just walk in the place like you own the place.
Yeah, nah, that's actually an interesting point because we were having this conversation actually offline, me and a few of my friends about perception. And, you know, one of my mates was like, fake it till you make it, or make sure that no matter what, you present well.
Yeah.
It's actually another conversation I was having with a guy.
But I think it's a fine line though, because yes, fake it till you make it. But there are times I have to say hands down, it has paid me to just be like, I can't afford that. Just outright, can't afford that. Sorry, way above my paycheck. And because what's happened is people have seen that vulnerability and they've chosen to then support you because they can see how hard you are working. There's loads of people I know in my life who have just taken the opportunity to be like, I'd love to come, not within my budget at the moment. And they've gone, you know what? Come. Wow. On me. And I always try and pay that back now that I am in a better position than I was before.
Of course.
If I can do something for someone, I literally would be like, no problem, just come on me. And I pay it back and I pay it forward. So there is a fine line, I think. Of course, fake it till you make it. Absolutely. Fake the funk. However, there are times when just being really authentic and being really vulnerable just pays you as well.
No, I think it's a great message, you know, especially I'm sure you've got, you know, tons of young girls, women, probably everyone of every age who's looking and seeing your journey and how, you know, your trajectory has risen to where it is. And, you know, the question always begs, you know, how did you do it? How did it, you know, when and how long it took? And I always like to say to people, you know, it's a very long overnight success, you know, period where, because you're like, you know, over a decade, you know, doing this thing now. And I think it speaks volumes to hard work and that work ethic, because I think that shouldn't be lost in, you know, your message that you're getting across.
No, absolutely. I think, and I know there's those people who'll be like, oh, she's made it. In my head, I'm constantly on the grind. I haven't made it. And I talk to my therapist about this all the time. And because I always say I'm not responsible for people's perceptions of me.
Of course.
I'm only responsible for what I think of myself. And whilst I can acknowledge my achievements, there are so many things I want to do that I just think to myself, I haven't made it yet. I've achieved some things, I've ticked some boxes, but I haven't made it just yet. But it hasn't been, I mean, I have a therapist, right? It hasn't been without a mental struggle, hasn't been without a financial struggle, a physical struggle. It hasn't been without its own anguish in many ways. So it definitely isn't a case of you don't wake up and be is where I am. So someone said to me, they met me at an event and they said, I'd love to be a consultant in the beauty industry like you. How do I get a job like that? And I said to her, it's an honor that's actually bestowed on you for the industry to ask you to give them your opinion on something. You don't wake up, you don't go and study for it. Yeah. It's because you've paid your dues. It's because you have shown your experience, you have shown your insights, you've shown so many different things about yourself that is of value to decision makers. So they ask you to then come and give them your opinion. Okay. You don't study for it. You just keep doing what you're doing, and in 10 years' time or so, you'll get the same honor. Yeah.
I want to touch on that because I'm curious as to how, I'm sure you get a lot of people reaching out, a lot of people coming up to you and, wanting advice or wanting, mentorship, all that comes with the territory, the position you're in. But how do, people really take the fact that this isn't something that you have to, like you said, you're studying for, you genuinely need to, have the backing, have the support of the community, the beauty community, and they have to trust you and what you say. How is that different from, I guess, when people just think, well, is there a book I can read, or, is there just a few people that I know that can get me in a few doors?
Your character will eventually show through. So of course you can go read some books, that's no problem. But it's actually being out there in the world, and grinding and people seeing you do that graft, put in that elbow grease. That's what counts. So you can read as many books as you want, which is why I'm always like, book knowledge in the beauty industry doesn't mean anything, because it's about what you do, what you physically show yourself doing. Are you a person of your word? Are you doing the things you say you will do? Are you uplifting other people? Are you working to better the industry, or are you working to better yourself? So you have to do a bit of both. Or you can know people, yes. Even if people open doors for you, when you walk through those doors, you're on your own. What happens is on you. So what you want is the combination of having worked very hard, then someone opens a door for you and you go in and you razzle and dazzle them in that room. That's what you want. You want a combination of all those factors. You want your book knowledge, you want your people knowledge, you want your people management skills, you want your hard graft, and you do want to be noticed by someone who will then open that door for you. So you go in, and once you, like I was saying, there's been times when I've wanted to put someone through a door and I've gone, they're just going to go and embarrass me there. Let me just mind my business, because they haven't shown any of the other components. So if you haven't shown any of the other components, why am I going to open the door for you? Because not only are you going, because they won't be like, oh, this is this person. They'll be like, oh, this is that person that Dija brought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you get a bit of a, if you do that several times, and like I say, you blotch your copybook, then after a while you find the door starts closing on you and then you can't help anybody else, which is why I always had to be really careful who I'm recommending for stuff, who I'm putting forward for stuff, because if they're not a team player, they get a bad name, I get a bad name, and that's not good for any of us. Not good for any of us.
Nah, super important, and something I actually want to touch on, because we had this conversation offline about, kind of, and I think you're aware of this, but certainly the role and the status that you hold in the space, being a black woman. And I was curious as to, when you were on your journey and coming up, was there anyone that you were able to, that allowed you, I guess, to open that door for you or helped you along the way as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have several. I have to say, on my journey still coming up, I have cheerleaders of all demographics. Usually older white women in the industry have taken me under their wing, partly because there aren't that many older black women in the industry anyway.
Wow.
So therefore, there's not that many to then open doors. And a lot of the time, a lot of people are like, they just got there themselves. So it's like, it's one of those things, you just got here and you bring all of you in. Like, what's wrong with you? So they're still trying to keep their seat warm before they can start letting other people in. So usually it's older white women that bring you in, because they see the need for diversity. They see the business case for it. They're hard-headed business women themselves. It's only now that the industry, there's a lot more. There's a lot more black women in the industry. Not as many, obviously, but more than before.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I remember when I worked in makeup, there's one particular makeup artist, Bolanle, and I used to assist her with weddings and stuff like that. And she was a black lady, and I would, to this day we're still friends. But it's really funny when you're coming up. It can sometimes be competitive, especially when there was a bit of a divide and conquer mentality, or like only room for one. Scarcity mentality. However, I definitely think that as there's been more people coming into the industry and realizing actually the pie is big enough for everybody, and we as a collective, black women collective, we just need to make sure we're all winning. I have to say that it's a lot more pleasant. Like, if I can't do a job, I'll recommend somebody else. We all get along really well. People expect us to not be friends, and like, we are friends. We talk on WhatsApp, we share information and all that, and I think people expect us to be catty, and it's very much like, if I'm coming in, well, I know this person, that person, and they're coming too, but that's because we have all raised the game. There are people who are still coming up who aren't quite there yet, but there's a large proportion of us that we've just raised the game, and we're all there for each other to make sure that, it's like a sisterhood. If one person is winning, then we all will win. Yeah. And even now, like, literally, we will all spend time congratulating each other, even on social, and acknowledging each other's wins.
No, that's beautiful, and I suppose bring others along.
It is really a case of bring others along. Obviously, you've got to have your wits about you,
of course.
But it is really a case of bring others along.
Yeah, no, and I think that's super important, because one of the conversations we had, in me basically wanting to certainly get you on the show was, not just to showcase your journey and all that stuff, which I think is pretty remarkable, but also how can we get more of this representation, people like yourself, like you said, the sisterhood, the network that you are part of, how you guys are championing each other and making sure that you support and push each other along. How do we continue that and probably grow it as best as we can?
How do we continue it? I think that we definitely have to continue to band along. I think for us sometimes, and I guess I come from a business perspective when I look at this, what's missing for us sometimes is that we don't have business acumen. And sometimes, unfortunately, I hate to say it, we lack the professionality that we need to maneuver ourselves in certain spaces. And again, there is sometimes how we continue it. Sometimes I feel that we need to stop being so transactional. We need to realize that it's not always, again, that cash transaction. It's not about that.
It's about the money.
It's not always about money. You need to be able to, it sounds awful, know how to behave when you're in certain spaces, to put it bluntly. Behave yourself. You know how to maneuver, and how to see further than yourself is important. And also, keep in touch, networking. There are so many times I'll say to my assistant, can you book me lunch with XYZ? Can you book me dinner with XYZ? And I don't know them very well, but I want to get to know them. And I think that we sometimes lack the confidence in ourselves. And we need to develop that confidence so that we can take space in different circles. And that's how we continue to push forward. If we are constantly shying away, we don't have the business skills, we don't have the acumen, we don't know how to behave, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not. And sometimes I think that's what, like, I've received emails from people before, and I'm like, if you couldn't be bothered to find out my name,
wow,
we're going to file this beef a bin. And I'm really strict on that. Like, I think I have one of the easiest names to find on the internet if you're interested in beauty.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you send me a hey email, hey, who are you haying? When did we start haying? Like, I don't know you. Come correct. Behave yourself.
Yeah. I think, and that speaks volumes, number one, to, the standards that you hold yourself to.
Yeah.
I think we do have to probably hold people accountable.
I am a big believer in holding people accountable, because I just feel that I know the circles I operate in, and I know what's expected, and I know, and I see how people get on in those circles. So when I say to you, write an email to Dare Shane, it's important you do. If Shane gives you his time, it's important you send an email or a little thank you card, even if it's a little £5 chocolate. Send it and say thank you. It's very important you do these things, because this is how you are remembered. Remember, you are your own personal brand at all times, right? My accountant hates my hospitality bill. Absolutely hates my hospital. He's like, do you have to buy chocolate from Fortnum & Mason's for everybody? I'm like, but it's £5 though. He's like, I said it, and plus the fact that it's from Fortnum & Mason's, that's what people see. They don't see the value of the chocolate. So you have to have these goodwill skills, I call them. You have to be like, I worked for a friend of mine on Monday gone, and I was literally like, she was like, what can you do? I was like, I'm just here to work. Like, tell me what you want me to do. And then she was like, in the end, she didn't even tell me what she wanted me to do. But she just saw me. I was selling products. I was doing this. I was lifting boxes. I was doing all sorts. Wow. Just be of service. Stop being about yourself all the time. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And I think it really, tells you about someone's character when, you can see they're genuinely of service. You can see they're not doing it for, oh, I'll do this for you, you do this for me. It's like, no, I actually do want to help you.
Yeah.
And I want, like you said earlier, I want to see you in, I want to see us progress. And I think it's kind of lost. And like you said, it may come from the acumen that, from a business perspective, maybe that's not really taught. That's something that's not really, presented to us probably as early as we should have.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a very sort of business family. Like everyone, if I remember growing up, everyone in my family was involved in business in some way, and hospitality. I mean, my mum worked in the hospitality industry, so it was that was something I grew up with anyway. And I do think there is an argument and a case for where generalizing here, where the Black community has kind of been in survival mode. You're not going to learn the skills that Rupert learned at his private school. You're not, Rupert. Right? However, when that is exposed to you, learn it. Do you know what I mean? I it's fine. You may not have spent time eating at Claridge's, so you may not know what to do. But when you are exposed to that, don't shut yourself off. And the reason I see a lot of people shutting themselves off is that they are totally scared. So therefore they shut themselves. Oh, it's not for me. It's not for me. Yeah, Black people don't do that. Yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. And I'm like, I look at him like, you're just scared. You're absolutely scared. Go put yourself in places that you may not necessarily believe you belong, and learn about being in those places.
I totally agree. I think it's probably one of the worst things that I hear people say all the time is, oh, Black people don't do this, or we don't do. I'm like,
yeah.
Where's the memo?
How come I didn't get that memo? Because I done been eating at Claridge's a long time. So and I'll be the sort of person who'd be like to the waiter, what is this thing? Please, can you tell me the history? What is this? And like, I'm not afraid of asking questions, because how else am I going to know, right? And let me tell you something. These people who work in these sort of institutions, they love educating other people. The minute you ask the waiter, what is this? They'll start telling you, well, madam, this comes from this. Because they're passionate about their jobs and they love exposing other people to the things they know. So you're feeling one way and they're not even seeing how you're feeling. They're just grateful you were interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want to tell you about their stuff.
Yeah. Nah, I think it's such a disservice that you do to yourself.
Yeah,
Really,
absolutely.
you know, in terms of, like you said, shutting yourself off, or just whether it's out of fear, whether it's out of just, you know, not being
It's okay
exposed.
to not know.
Yeah,
It is, everybody was a beginner one day. It is okay to not know. Don't pretend, which is why I said to you earlier that there's only so much you can fake the funk. At some point, you're going to have to be like, hey, I know nothing. Please teach me about this. You know, even just today, I sent someone an email going, you're going to have to enlighten me on this. Like literally. Because I just put a little smiley face on it because I have no idea what's going on here. So, you know, you're going to have to, at some point, you have to say you don't know. But there's people out there willing to teach you. That's the thing. There are so many people out there willing to take people under their wings and teach them. But when you've got your arms crossed, you know, oh yeah, we don't do this. I'm a boss lady. Well, be boss lady.
yeah, and I think, you know, that's one thing that I admired about you, because you absolutely are someone who I've actually now witnessed who's willing to, you know, be of service and help. Hence why you're sat here today. So I am absolutely blown away, because I really wanted to not just, you know, because I think it's been documented well before I came into the picture how amazing you are at the stuff that you do, but certainly for maybe some of my audience and people that I know who I absolutely are promoting, you need to see Dija, you need to go there, blah, blah, blah. I think it's important, you know, that they understand the, not just the grind, but also how the makeup is of the industry, and you know, the position you hold as a black woman in the industry with your voice. And I think that's super important, you know, for obviously other, you know, black girls who are probably watching this, listening to this and thinking, oh, I probably could be a Dija one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that, because there is the industry, the beauty industry especially, is for the taking. I mean, it is one of the happiest places to work in.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Our job, think about it when you come to Westrum. Our job is to put a smile on your face.
Job done.
Yeah, that's our job. And our job is to talk to people, find out how they are. My assistant will testify to this, that I can be in the worst mood, but the minute clients come in, I'm a totally different person.
Love that.
Because we are an industry where people look forward to coming to see us. Like, I went to my hairdresser today. Like, I'm bouncing there. Like, gonna go see my hairdresser. People look forward to seeing us because we help people get their confidence back. We help people put a pep in their step. So we are an industry that, and we are one of the happiest places to work in, bottom line. So I would love to see more black girls come into beauty, but not just come into beauty and do the business of beauty as well. Because of course you can come into beauty, you can be a manicurist, you can be doing faces and all that kind of stuff. But unless you're super special, you're not necessarily going to make a lot of money from it.
Yeah.
So then you'll dismiss the industry. But if you can come into beauty and have a business brain at the same time and develop a business within beauty, then you stand to have a much longer career and a much more fulfilling career in beauty as well. And you stand to get more opportunities.
Yeah. No, and we'll touch on that. I wanted to, I guess, kind of change gears for a second, because one of the things that I wanted to get your take on is, you know, how represented we are, or maybe underrepresented we are in this field. And from your perspective, I know you're part of some organizations and leading in the diversity and inclusion side of things. What do you think needs to happen, I guess, to, I wouldn't say allow, but to encourage, or maybe, you know, maybe welcome more people of color, black, ethnic minorities into the beauty space?
I think there's a lot of box ticking exercises that go on in the beauty industry.
Talk.
Not just in beauty, actually, in lots of industry. I mean, I noticed it in the publishing industry as well. And I think that brands and businesses in beauty actually need to take the time out to find out what the stumbling blocks are, and to develop a pipeline of people coming into the industry. Different aspects of the beauty industry, like, say, for example, journalism, are like traditionally very low paid at the start, and not many black women can afford to go and work a low paid job, because a lot of the biggest journalists would have had support from mum and dad, so therefore they could do the internships and all that sort of stuff. And a lot in my conversations I've had with black journalists before, they could never afford to work for free as such. They've got families to support, or as you know, generally a lot of black people have to give back and make a contribution to their family.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to give mum and dad some money every month and all that. So working for free or working for a very, very low paid job isn't necessarily going to be something you're going to do. So therefore, I do think that the industry needs to stop the box ticking and actually delve a bit deeper into what sorts of schemes would really work to encourage more black women to come into the industry. I think from a practical beauty point of view, there are a lot of black women coming into the industry, but what tends to happen is that we just tend to build our own businesses. We don't tend to go into the usual, maybe working for somebody else and all that kind of stuff. We build our own businesses. So you have a lot of black hairdressers, obviously, who own their own salons and all that sort of stuff. But if we want to get more integration, number one, we need to find out what black women or black people as such, men and women, need to function in industry. Plus also, we need to make the industry more inclusive from a grassroots level, i.e. even just from education. Because I can tell you that, say, for example, in beauty school, you don't cover things like why is black skin black. You don't cover the differences in just the physiology of skin. You don't. So when you have people come out into the industry, they only know how to work on white skin. In the main, they don't know how to treat black skin, which is why I wrote my book in a very educational manner. So whether you are a consumer, whether you are a therapist, you can read my book. So even down to education needs to be broader to incorporate more people of color. Anyway, when you go to beauty school and all your teachers are white and you ask them a question about, oh, well, I'm sat here as a black woman, why is my skin black? And they're like, and they themselves don't know. Even then that creates, I wouldn't say it creates divisions in the industry, but it shows you the gaping holes in the industry.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that's a point that should be taken to the level to where the entry point or that inception to where people do have a genuine, you know, passion, a love, a like, you know, to get into beauty, like you said, being met with, you know, questions or asking questions where people just can't give you the response you would like to hear or you want, or just being able to support you along those early parts of your journey could probably deter you and make you think, oh, this
it makes you feel like the industry's not for you. It absolutely does. Or even when you notice that certain types of opportunities only go to certain type of people. Again, I think it's a double-edged sword, because if you don't put yourself out there because you lack the confidence or whatever, then you're not going to get the opportunities. Then it is going to feel like other people are getting the jobs that you want. Also, I think that there comes a time where we as a community need to participate more to bring about the changes we want. So as part of my role at the British Beauty Council, so I look a lot at diversity things anyway, and we would have like these like town halls, and we would invite all sorts of senior black women in the industry. We'd invite everybody who wants to participate, and we wouldn't. Sometimes I find that the people who have complaints a lot wouldn't attend those meetings, and it's always like, if you want to be an armchair complainer, you can go ahead, but you're not going to affect change like that. And we do need to be active participants in the change we want. I fundamentally believe that. I'm not saying sort of brush under the carpet misdemeanors that have happened, but you can spend forever complaining about those misdemeanors, or you can try and create a situation where we move on from there and we move on to having the things that we want. So there is that too, where we can ask the industry to do X, Y, and Z. However, if we're not active participants in that, if I always say, if you have time to go on Twitter to complain about something, you have time to attend a town hall and talk about the changes you'd like to see. You should have time. If you are that passionate about the industry, you should. And not only should you do that, but you should, and these are the bits of the industry that don't pay actually, you should be willing to commit to helping that change happen. And yes, that means you're going to have to work for free.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of the stuff that you're doing now, hopefully, in years to come, it would really be at the forefront of ushering in a new wave of, black women who are predominantly really good, first of all, at what they do, but are actually given the opportunities.
Yeah, I sincerely hope so. Because I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I always think to myself that, and I always say to everybody, it's almost like in some respects, the opportunities for my generation have passed, but I would like for girls my daughter's age coming into the industry to not know these barriers. Yeah. Some of the barriers, yes, are there because of how the industry has always been run historically. But I think some of the barriers also are a result of our mindset as a community. And we need to work to break down both of those barriers. So I do hope that the work that not only I do, but other black women in the industry, I really hope that by the time my daughter is in her 20s and she might want to go into beauty, whatever, I do hope that these sort of conversations are off the past.
Yeah, no. And, we can only hope, and I suppose the work that you're doing today will definitely, make that journey hopefully a lot easier, for her. I do want to touch on one of the main reasons we're here today, which is Black Skin.
Yes!
Debut book coming out on the 25th of this month. How has this process been?
Do you know what? It's been very interesting. It's had its ups and downs, I'm not going to lie. Again, but it's one of those things where you're going into an industry, publishing, that you know nothing about. And you have to have your wits about you at all times. You have to be asking the right questions. I always say to my PR, keep 2 eyes open at all times. And I'll be like,
trying to be closing one.
I'll be like this to her: keep 2 eyes open at all times. Read between the lines when you get in the room. Don't just take what they tell you. And yeah, it's been interesting. It's almost 3 years to the day actually that my publishing journey started. I was first approached by a different publisher, like I say, almost 3 years to the day, where we had big discussions about, what I could possibly write.
Yeah.
And at that time, again, I toyed with the idea of writing a book, but it's like my old boss. I didn't feel I had the option. I didn't feel I had the permission. I went into, a journey. You start off the journey with a publisher, you write your pitch, you write your case, all of that sort of stuff. And it didn't happen in the end with this particular publisher. But by then I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to actually let you stop me. I'm going to write this book. So that all fell apart. And I kept on writing actually. And my current publisher, HarperCollins, they approached me. I think it was summer last year. They approached me. And at that time I felt pretty burnt by the first publisher. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even entertain it. I was like, I'm not interested. They were like, no. And we really had a good chat. And I got an agent. And yeah, we took it from there. So it's been a very steep learning curve. Wow. Not only, I've always loved writing and I've always blogged. I've always written magazine articles. I've always done all of that anyway. However, this is a different type of journey. And I think that, everyone has a very romantic idea of books. And, books are a product. They are a sales product. And publishers are a business. Yeah. They are not there to make a loss. And I think that is, I knew that, but I really know that now. Yeah. And you come into the publishing world and, if you're thinking about your dream book that you want to write, I could guarantee you whatever dream book you're thinking of, it ain't going to look like that by the time it hits the shelf. I had so many ideas. I remember one of the first things I said was, I want a photo shoot. I want all these black women. Da, 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 da. And I remember them like, they don't say no to you. They just say, yeah, okay. How about we talk about that closer to the time? That's code for no. That is just code for no.
Just finessing that no.
It's just finessing the no. And by the time you get closer to the time, that no long gone. You get closer to the time and you realize that the no, you know it's a no. You don't even bring it up again. Even you know it's a no. So yeah, and it's a process by which you then start looking at ROI all the time. And my PR would be, oh, DJ, yeah, let's do this. I'd be like, how many books are going to sell to make that money back? Because it's a sale. It's a product. Wow. That's why I say to people, when you see my Instagram post, don't think it's too much. Just press like. Just press like. Don't be arguing with me. Even if you think in your head, this DJ, all she does is talk about her book. Please, just press like. Repost it on your... I mean, you must have seen my Instagram posts where I'm quite vulnerable on Instagram, right? And I will say things like, the reason why you have to buy my book, it's not just for me. And please don't ever think that you buy my book for 20 quid and 20 quid comes straight in my back pocket. It don't work like that. It's
going towards a mortgage.
It don't work like that. Books work on percentages, right? So I remember my husband's friend said, oh, we're rich now. And I was just like... Even my husband, because my husband looked at the percentages and he just looked at his friend, please don't start saying rubbish like that. because my husband, people think you're an author. So they think, oh, the money's rolling in.
You rich.
Yeah, they're like, and you people be calculating. So yeah, if you sell 100 books, I'm like, please don't help me count my money. Because 100 books,
out of my pocket.
100 books does not mean that 20 quid came in my pocket. You need to realize that publishing is a business. So, and that's what I always say on Instagram. When you buy my book, number one, you are making way for other Black women to have publishing deals, actually.
Absolutely.
That's what you're doing. Because if my book sells, and it sells well, it shows the publishing industry that we are worth investing in. The publishing industry is extremely white, and that's a fact. Yeah. They all know it, and they are trying to make lots of changes very, very quickly to the industry to equalize it a little bit. Yeah. But buying my book isn't necessarily about me. It's about the message it sends out to everybody else. Pushing my book to become a Sunday Times bestseller, for example, sends a message to everybody else. It doesn't, even things like, for example, when you first sign your deal, unless you're like a massive name, you don't get multi-territory, right? So when people start asking me in America, when I first announced my book, and they're like, I'm going on Amazon in America, can't find your book. It says unavailable. People will screenshot me. Do you know what I did to make the business case for my book to be published in America? I screenshot every single screenshot I was sent and forwarded on. Because I had to prove there was demand for my book to be published in those countries. Because you don't just get this global release. You've got to be a massive, big name to get stuff like that. My book initially, when it was announced, was UK publication only. Now we've got Australia, New Zealand, we've got Ireland, we've got America, we've got South Africa, right? That did not come on the same day that my book was published or my book was announced. I remember driving home like a couple of months after my book was announced, and my agent called him and go, DJ, we got multi-country. I was like, oh my God. And he was like, you do know not everyone gets this, don't you? On their debut, like, you do know this. Wow. Right? And I was like, okay, cool. So at the end of the day, it is very much an industry that I absolutely love publishing. But at the same time, I realize and I recognize it's a business. And one of the first things I remember saying to my team at my publisher was, I'm a businesswoman, so please just give me the facts, serve it to me cold. Don't start trying to sugarcoat anything. Just tell me what's up and I can deal with that. Don't start treating me like I'm new to this. I'm not new to this. I'm not new to business. I might be new to publishing, but I'm not new to business. And I have to say, the minute I just looked at it as if this book is a product that we have to sell, my mindset changed, because I do remember wanting like all sorts of events. I want this, I want that. And I remember them saying to me, we can't do events we don't sell books at, because how does the event pay for itself? Otherwise, we are putting on events, and why are we putting on the event? We've spent 10 grand to put an event on. we need to know that we're selling 12 grand worth of books there. And once you start looking at things like that as well, you start realizing that what's the best kind of event I can have for as little money as possible? Even you start going, calculating it and going,
yeah, just get the cousins and the uncles. And
yeah,
uncles
yeah. So it's been a very interesting journey, and it's not things that people talk about, which is why like I was very pleased a few weeks ago when a friend of mine who'd been offered a publishing deal called me and said, I just want to get the real tea. And I'm pretty sure that I said to her, go back and renegotiate. I gave her a few pointers, a few different ways, because she was just gassed. I was like, you know what? Be gassed.
Yeah.
Be gassed that you were approached, right? Be gassed about it. However, also be very sensible and think about it like this, that, and the other, which she did. And she went back and renegotiated because she was ready to sign.
Wow, really?
And I was just like, let me just give you the hot tea before you go sign your life away.
Nah, I think, you know, we've spoken about it and touched on it a few times actually during this conversation regarding, you know, just being able to provide that insight, that knowledge,
Yeah,
you know, that understanding.
Yeah.
So the person coming after you, or even the person that's with you, is understanding of what, number one, they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
But also how they can truly take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because there was another person that I spoke to, and I said to her, how are you going to sell this book? Who do you know? Because literally you have to call on people you know. And she didn't really have a very good address book. And this is what I mean by you have to have networked. You have to have been of service to other people because it comes full circle. Now that I have people calling me saying, Dija, what can I do for you for your book? I don't even have to ask them. They're asking me, which means that if you haven't put in that time, that grunt work, right? When you need people to support you, then no one's going to be there because they don't know who you are. They haven't seen the fruits of your labor, right? So they're like, ooh. While I have people asking me, what can I do for you, right? Which is fantastic. And I'm 110% grateful. But so this other girl, she hadn't put in the grunt work, not for any reason. She was just new.
Yeah.
So I said to her, you're better off actually turning down that deal, spending the next 2 years. I said, be gassed and be happy that you've been approached, but spend the next 2 years trying to develop a network. Because when it comes to selling your book, you need people who trust and believe in you to back you 110%. Wow. There are many things and many many things that I will do in the next couple of weeks, which are simply only a result of the people who backing me to certain people and speaking about me in rooms that I'm not in to allow me to have the opportunities I have. And I know in a couple of weeks, people will be like, yeah, well, it's Dija though. She always gets these things. No, it's not true. It's not true. There's been times I've not seen my kids. I've not seen my husband. Like this week, I'm barely at home, right? And I have 2 young kids, right? When I was writing, I was barely at home, and I still have to go to clinic and smile and do faces.
There you go.
And nobody knows, right? So, but I've paid my dues and I continue to pay dues. And as I say to this day, kiss the ring. Always kiss the ring, right? It's not about sucking up, but it's also about being strategic. Completely about being strategic, knowing what you want and what you want to achieve in a few years' time and the steps you need to take to get there. So it's a complete, publishing is an amazing industry. I love the fact that I have so much insight into it now. I don't have all the insights, obviously. There's still other things I'm sure I'll find out. However, I feel quite comfortable where I am with it at the moment. And I am obviously amazed that my book is out in 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's super impressive, firstly, you know, and congratulations, if I've not said it before, because it's super impressive how you're able to pivot and just make these, you know, moves where a lot of the time there's not a lot in front of you to, you know, there's not a blueprint, you know, there's no one there going, you know, come Dija, I'll show you this, I'll show you that. But also it's the fact that you're able to, you know, like you said, your friend that called you, she's got a book deal or was offered a book deal, and you were able to say, you probably want to renegotiate, you probably want to add this and that. And I think that's where, you know, purpose of the show, obviously, in terms of how we can bring others along. But, you know, you basically kind of epitomize that in terms of how you're able to, because of the position you're in, because of the status that you hold, how you're able to bring other people. You know,
I spent at the start of my journey in publishing, I spent a lot of time complaining to my team. How come nobody tells you this shit? I'd be like, why the freaking hell? Why don't anybody talk about this stuff? How come nobody tells you this stuff?
The secret society.
And you just got to find out on your own. And I just kind of made a decision that whatever I find out, I'm telling everybody. Which is why I'm able to say, and obviously, you have to have your own backbone, right? You have to have your own wits about you as well. I can't give you all the tea. As I say, cook your own sauce. However, I will give you enough for you to go away to think about. Now, it's up to you whether you choose to go and negotiate, right? I have my own deal. I know what I'm doing. So I will give you enough to say, maybe look at it like this or look at it like that. I'm not going to tell you to say yes or no. That's not my place. But I'm going to give you a few pointers. And I have to say, no one gave me pointers. Actually, no one black gave me pointers. I have white friends in the industry who, that's what I always say. It's my mentors in the beauty industry are older white women who actually were like, Dija, or I know I can pick up the phone and be like, oh, this has happened. They're like, oh, just tell them this. Just say this, right? And which is why I just made a deal with myself. I will pay it forward to anyone who asks me, right? So I will always, like I say, I'm not gonna give you blueprints because I can only do things my own way, and you can only do things your own way. But I'll give you a few things to think about, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's still amazing. Like, it's an absolute achievement to have a book published. Absolute achievement.
It's huge.
To go through it, and I'm sure like people around me can testify. They all felt it. They all felt it. But if you do get the opportunity to, and you believe in yourself, I think you should absolutely just know that it's whatever romantic ideas you have about it. Just realize that at the end of the day, if you want your book to do well and you want all the accolades of having a best-selling book, it's on your shoulders. You've got to do the grind work. You've got to wake up at 4. You've got to, whatever it is. As I always say, I will do whatever it takes to sell my books, as long as it's legal. It's as simple as that.
Oh, I love the grind. Nah, and I guess in terms of the actual book, and I'm sure hearing this, lots of people are going to be, very excited and they're looking forward to it. What are some of the gems and those things? What are people going to take away from the book? First of all, what are some gems you're dropping in the book?
So the book is basically almost 2 books in one. It's part a practical skincare guide, as in things like what makes black skin black, how to choose the right cleanser for you, some of the common conditions that you'll find on black skin. Say, for example, on black men, you might get razor bumps, you might get the bumps at the back of the head. Why is black skin prone to certain types of conditions, like keloid scarring, for example? So there's some very practical elements in there. There's information like how do you choose your treatment, or what do you need to know about treatments, and why, for example, you may feel that certain treatments aren't for you. So there's a very practical, like, you will always have that book on the side. Go, oh yeah, I heard about this. Let me just check it. So it's a very practical guide. The other half of it is, I always describe it as a historical look through skincare in terms of the relationship with the black community. So we look at things like how did we go from black skin being black being an absolute royal color to then becoming something that was seen as less than. What are the origins of that? I look through the 1960s, the civil rights movement, the Jim Crow laws, Black Hollywood. How did we get to a point where black was not seen as beautiful? How did you get to a point where, say, a white woman could have lip fillers to make her lips bigger, but yet my lips are insufficient as they are? Meanwhile, we've got someone trying to copy the size of my lips, but it's all right on her, but it's not right on me. And the only difference is one's white, one's black. I look at things like that. So the intersection of blackness and the beauty industry. I look at how brands have performed in relation to black beauty. And I look at how we move forward. So that's why I say it's a very practical guide, yes, but it's also, especially for anyone who works in the industry, but you're non-black, it's very much a tool to arm you with some cultural knowledge as to why things are the way they are and how we can move on. So whether you be a brand owner, whether you work in PR, whether you work, it could be that you're a white woman but your partner's black, or you have a mixed race kid. It could be any of those things. So when people say to me, is your book just for black women? I always go, no, it's written in the image of black women, but it's actually for everybody who has a stake in the beauty industry as well. And also for anyone who's just really interested in the history of blackness.
Love that.
So that's what people can take away. There's going to be so many things that people read, especially in the historical section, and go, I didn't know that. There's going to be so many gems that people are just like. And when next time they walk into Selfridges after reading that book, they're going to have their wits about them. Or not just Selfridges, I mean any department store, to be honest. But they're going to be a bit more grounded in what they see and how it's going to change how you just even look at playing an advert on telly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I can't wait to grab the book, because I think you mentioned it just now, but one of the things that I heard you talk about was, you know, the historical role of blackness and the relationship to beauty. And I think it's almost, I wouldn't say lost, but it's almost one of those things like you explain, how did we get to a stage where blackness is viewed as lesser than, you know? And I think it's so important, especially in the times we're living in with social media, and, you know, how, I guess, kids, let's say, you know, their perception of beauty is definitely warped, and, you know, what it should be and shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. I think this is really a book, hopefully, that can, you know, probably bring them back to, and then we're talking obviously about, you know, black kids, how they can be brought back to a time where blackness was really celebrated, you know, and it was really something to be, you know, was really powerful. And I think that's really something that I'm looking forward to reading the book and sharing with, you know, my daughters.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be names of people you read in the book and you're going to be like, I had no idea about this. And you can share it with your family and your children, and really galvanizes them. I have to say, someone asked me, a journalist asked me the other day, how does writing your book or having written those history sections, how does that make you feel? And I was like, it just makes me more galvanized. It just makes me more stable, more grounded in my beauty and my blackness. It just makes you want to fight for it more, because you do go through periods of erasure where at the moment there's this sort of view that beauty is non-racialized, and you can have like this nondescript sort of cookie cutter version, stroke maybe Kim Kardashian, stroke Jessie Nelson. Like you can't tell ambiguous beauty, ambiguous racial beauty.
They're kind of just threading that line.
Yeah, and it makes me be like, no, I'm going to just carry my afro hair actually. I am going to put lip gloss on my lips and make them even more voluptuous. I am going to, do you know what I mean? It just makes you so much more like, I'm going to be black. Black. I'm going to be black. Blackety black I'm going to be. It just kind of makes you a bit more like, don't mess with me. Yeah. Because you have to know where you're coming from, right?
Absolutely.
To know where you're going. So for me, it galvanized me so much more. And it galvanized me for my daughter to, like, you know, my daughter say, oh, mummy, why are you always like wait, why do you wear, like, if you're gonna wear a wig, why do you wear an Afro wig? What's the point? I'm like, because it's beautiful. You know what I mean? I'm like, why wouldn't I wear an Afro wig? Why do I have to wear a straight wig? You know, and it's great to have all the choices available to you to do different looks, straight. I mean, I've just like blow dried my hair straight today, right? And tomorrow it'll be curly again. But it's great to have all those choices available to you. But what I found in the process of writing my book, for Black women coming up, there was only one choice: be as Eurocentric as possible to be accepted. Whereas I'm much more now like galvanized. I can be any damn which way.
Nah.
I don't need to be straight hair, straight nose. That's not me. I was born in Africa. I'm West African. I'm Sierra Leonean. I have a flat nose, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you know, that message is, it really speaks volumes, and it's pretty powerful, because we do have this, you know, perception of what beauty should, or, you know, needs to look like from, you know, modern day society.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's quite ambiguous. It's just
Yeah.
that.
Don't be black. Don't be too black.
Yeah.
But you don't be white either, because you're not white. But just be this in between, which is not real either.
No,
You know, it's like back in there when people be like J-Lo from the block, and be like, but black girls don't be walking around the block with big bums a long time. Like, how is this new?
yeah, it's almost comical in a way when you really think about it. Like, even the, you know, the example you gave with, you know, how predominantly white women today would, you know, be putting fillers in their lips and stuff like that. And this stuff, you know, I've grown up with, I've seen in my community, in the culture, it's been, you know, almost shunned upon. Always like, oh no, that's not. But you know, you go over here and suddenly it's celebrated.
Yeah.
So, you know, it really does begs the question, and I'm really pleased that you've got so much historical references and things of, you know, how I guess amazing and how beautiful, you know, blackness really is, and how it should be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely was adamant. I am not writing a book just about choosing your face wash. Like, I'm just not. And I really wanted to. And I remember my editor being like, so we have a bit of a problem. And I was like, because obviously I knew it was going to come up. I was like, what's the problem? And she was like, well, this is awesome, like 2 books in one. Do we put it at the front? Do we put it at the back? You know, how do we do it? And we've done it in a really interesting way, because it is, the history section is very different, you know, so, but we've done it in a very interesting way, in which it really ties in well with the whole structure of the book. I'm just really excited to see everyone's response. Because one thing, me being gassed, right? Like, I guess people can see on social. I'll be like, do you know I wrote a book? Do you know I wrote a book? Did you find out yet? Just in case you didn't know, I wrote a book. But what I am really excited about is Black women getting the book and it lands on their doorstep, because if you've already pre-ordered, it will land, I think you get it a couple of days in advance. And just seeing people just, I hope, be really happy that, yes, they've got this practical skincare guide, but they've also got this section that really just helps them, just reinforces who they are. Especially in an industry that's always kind of been like 7 white models, 1 black one, and that's the quota. In an industry that's sort of said to them, we're just going to borrow all your features and put them on the white women, and then we'll just have you in the back somewhere. I just really hope they can wake up on that morning in a couple of weeks' time and just be like, do you know what? I'm beautiful, and don't you forget that. I have a history, don't you forget that. And I just hope that, my sincere wish is that people pick that up in the book.
No, these look, you know how I feel about you and how the work that you're doing, I think, is absolutely amazing. And I think we can probably carry on about this for another hour or so.
Because, you know, I wrote a book. I could talk about this. I could be talking about this a long time, because I wrote a book. And you know what? It's one of those things. I'm like, it took me so damn long. You're going to hear about it. I don't care if you turn the volume off if you don't want to hear it. But I wrote a book. So, yeah, we could talk about it all day, but I respect your time.
No, look, I you know, maybe we do a part 2, but especially when the book's out. But I think, you know, for today's, you know, conversation, I really wanted to hopefully give the audience and everyone watching an insight into your journey, you know, into the platform and into the business that you've built. You know, I think it's just remarkable, you know, how you've navigated the industry, which from what you've explained today, well done.
You know, I love the beauty industry.
Well
I
done.
love the people who work in the beauty industry. Um, I think we form a really tight circle around each other. Um, and it really is an industry I'm very proud to be a part of. And yeah, if you are willing to grind, do the hard work, it's an industry that absolutely pays. We look after each other in the beauty industry. We look after other people, yeah, but we look after our own as well. Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's a great way to end it, because, you know, I think you've embodied everything that this show is about, which is bringing others along. And hopefully that we can, you know, through your book, through your work, your mentorship, you know, all of the things that you're doing in the community, you know, we can get a lot more
Yeah,
people like yourself who are flying
absolutely.
the flag and, yeah, opening the door for others. So yeah, but before we wrap up, there's just
Mm.
one last question, and I always put this forward to the guests, which is, you know, who would you like to bring along? So from your perspective, someone who can sit in that seat and, you know, have a conversation to where their
Mm.
journey and, you know, their story can be inspiring to others as well.
I think more than who would I like to bring along, I think I can explain to you the kind of person or
Absolutely.
personality I'd bring along. Um, I'd bring along someone who understands that they themselves are a brand and how they show up in the world is what counts. Someone who isn't afraid of hard work, someone who understands the power of their word and doing the things they say they will do, someone who isn't afraid of learning, someone who, I always say ego is the enemy, someone who can park their ego and they say you can, if you want to progress in life, you can either go on your own or you can go with people. Someone who's able to get along with people, I'd bring along. Um, Someone who is in it for more than themselves.
Yeah.
That's the sort of person I'd bring along. And that could be anybody of any background, of any heritage. Of course, yes, I like to see black women win, absolutely. But I'm more interested in bringing certain types of personalities along that add to the party rather than just take away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well said. Well, uh, remind the audience once again when the book is out.
So Black Skin, the definitive skincare guide, is out on the 25th of November in all good bookstores, wherever you buy your books. It's also out on audio, which I read myself. So that's out already. It's out. It will be out on the 25th as well. Yeah, and it's on ebook as well.
Brilliant. Nah. So once again, thank everyone for listening. Everyone who's reached out, who is supporting the show, all of the well wishes and people who are obviously taking value from these conversations. I think today's was unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
Loads of gems, loads of, you know, practical stuff that people can hopefully go away and do as well. And like I said, I think you're an inspiration, and I think you're definitely flying a flag in a space where we're not usually well represented, but it's good to see that you are the representation in
Thank
that
you.
space. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you coming on the show. And I'll obviously plug the socials and links to Westroom.
Yes.
Um,
Your favorite place?
My
Second
favorite
favorite place?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously where you can get the book when it's out, and all of the socials for Dija that you can go and follow, keep up to date with what she's doing. She's absolutely hilarious on Instagram.
I'm your regular class clown, aren't I?
Absolutely love the page. But no, I think, you know, once again, I'm super, super grateful you agreed to do
No,
this, because
I'm honored you asked me. Like I said, I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, thanks for having me. Absolutely. Wouldn't have missed it.
I definitely would like to do this again. But on that note, I want to make sure that everyone is aware of the master classes and different things that we've got coming up with a lot of the guests. Some really interesting episodes that we've got coming up as well. And like you said, practical ways that we can help, you know, teach and improve and push the culture forward.
Yeah.
And I enjoy sitting down with people like you who definitely you're doing that. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you all for listening, and see you
Peace
on the
out.
next one. Bye, guys.